call on Deputy Sean Kenny. I understand you're sharing time.
Yes, I'm sharing time with Deputy Humphreys and Deputy Ferris.
Thank you.
Firstly, Cathaoirleach, can I pay tribute to the workforce in the ESB for the sterling work they did during the recent storms, and their efforts to quickly restore the power supply to the communities that were affected, and to the work that the ESB workforce do all the year round, 365 days a year. This bill, Cathaoirleach, provides a legal basis to enable the ESB to engage in the business of installing and operating an electronic communications network in the future, and also in providing electronic communication services, either alone or in partnership with another company. The bill provides appropriate provisions in respect of the ESB's existing powers in the context of its operation in what is a fully open and liberalised telecommunications market. This is important for the state as it is also a competitor in this market. The costs associated with the bill are purely administrative costs relating to the legislative proposals and pursuing them. No additional costs or recurring costs to the Exchequer have been identified, as this legislation is merely providing for something that will occur in the future. I wish to spend a short time, Cathaoirleach, considering the detail of the legislation. It is, I think, a straightforward bill, as it merely points the way forward and is not actually setting up an electronic communication network at this point in time. The legislation gives the ESB an explicit legal basis to engage in the business of electronic communications networks and electronic communication services, either alone or in conjunction with a partner company. The legislation also enables the ESB to provide any company with access to its electricity infrastructure for the purposes of developing electronic communication networks and services of any nature to facilitate such development. I think this part of the legislation is very important. Care must be taken, I believe, to ensure that the ESB infrastructure is kept in state ownership, and that sustainable financial gain for the ESB must be made in return for use of its assets or services. Due to the nature of the electricity network, elements of ESB infrastructure is laid out across private land, and as we're seeing at the moment, this is a fairly sensitive political issue, and I think great care must be taken to ensure that local communities are not only informed as to what is going on, but genuinely give their consent to it as well. In recognition of this, the existing Electricity Supply Acts provide statutory wayleave rights to the ESB, which allows it to cross private lands subject to the payment of compensation where appropriate. Given that the ESB proposes to utilise the existing electricity distribution network for telecommunications purposes, such wayleave rights across private lands will be necessary where the ESB provides access to its infrastructure under this bill. And so it is for that reason that the legislation extends the ESB wayleave powers across private lands in instances where access to infrastructure is granted by the ESB to another company. This section has been modelled on Section 49 of the Electricity Regulations Act 1999, where such powers are subject to the consent of the Commission for Energy Regulation. In conclusion, I believe this bill is a positive development. As legislators, we're often accused of having too much concern for the short term and not enough for the future, I think, and there is some truth to it. This bill is a welcome demonstration of making provision for future developments. It opens the way forward for the state to become involved in what is a profoundly important area of commercial activity as technology develops and as society becomes even more connected than it is already. Thank you, Cathaoirleach.